What do we have here? Why, it's the night itself. Prisma. Prisma the Great. Nonfiction. Prisma is great. It's a very sweet purr. It's a very tired, loving, grateful purr. It's so sweet. There's a teacher at the school where I work at, whose name I see on documents sometimes, Roger Williams. So I keep thinking of the political figure. I mean, the preacher. He was my ancestor's preacher in Salisbury after his banishment when he was back in Massachusetts. My ancestors, the Cloughs, or Clougs, however they pronounced it then. Cloughs. Clough, meaning ravine. The name tracing back to invaders among William the Conqueror's people, because land was given to a Clough, 1066. Dang. On my dad's mom's side. Anyway, got all these Southwestern books still to look at from over here. That'll be the last section of books in this part of this room. This is not a scratching post. Alright, let's see what happens here. This book is great. Death in Grand Canyon. Over the Edge, Death in Grand Canyon. I also read someone's dissertation that was basically this book, but for Glen Canyon. Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. Glen Canyon over... Well... That was kind of a history of death. It was written by a ranger, Carl Frisch, who had been a ranger on Lake Powell for a long time. I met him when I was on a long canoe trip. There's a quote from Tony Hellerman on there. I knew him a bit before he died. Very cool guy. Let's see, what do we got going on here? A lot of the deaths in here, it's organized in some sort of ways. Like there's a whole section on people backing up to take photos and like pretending to lean over the edge. And then they die. I love the Canyonlands. They're the wildness I love most. To descend into a crack in the earth and, still revel in sunshine and ancientness. Oh man, the Canyonlands are amazing. Introduction. Why a book on death? South room. Yeah, both rooms are beautiful. It still sounds weird to me, or sometimes they hear just Grand Canyon. To me, it's the Grand Canyon. Recommended. And see the Grand Canyon. It's incredible. Anything that brings the Grand Canyon back into your life and makes you want to visit it more, it's good, I think. So yeah. If you see this book, it's I think anyone with morbid sensibilities would appreciate it. And also it's just interesting to know. Don't you want to know everything about, life and death? And that's cool. And to quote Daniel Johnston, you too will die one day. So I don't feel like it's a taboo topic because it's like the destiny of us all, Pretty nice wraparound cover, but it does cut to something else. I've read chapters from this, and I've read around in it. I wouldn't say that I read it cover to cover. I don't have that memory of it. It's Prismo! Don't scratch it. I just give up and accept that everything will be made shabby by the cats. I don't quite want to be like that. This is like a beautiful, library protected copy, but without the tag mania that plagues some library copies. This is nice. And Meriwether Lewis is a really interesting figure. I can't help but be interested in the Lewis and Clark expedition. I read too much about him too young. At exactly the right time in my life. Clark, never forgive you for owning a slave and for not freeing him in your will like you promised. But Lewis, you seem like you were kind of a tragic figure, maybe. What's that look, Prisma? Nice, bro. Alright, had to cut away from squirrel. Just doing a little, somewhat invasive cleaning procedure over there. Just about 2 feet from me, thanks, squirrel. I like an old-fashioned book. What am I gonna do? I've been musing lately on book collections because of this channel. It forces me to think about it. Like, yeah, what is it? What's it about? Why do I want a book collection? I want to have a library around me, a resource, set of resources. Draw from, be inspired by. I guess I do enjoy them as objects. I consider them a very easy possession. If you're going to be a collector or something, why not something that fits neatly on a shelf, you know? 1965, okay. Yeah, the 60s, my favorite aesthetic era of books, I would say. I mean, sure, yeah, super old stuff's awesome, but that's 65, that's cool. Meriwether Lewis, did he take his own life? Was he murdered? He does seem like a bipolar individual. I've read his abridged journals. He became governor of Louisiana after the expedition. I mean, say what you will about the effects of that expedition, and the effects include genocide, the opening of the West to an often rapacious white population, and the exposure of so many previously thriving tribes to European diseases, usually unintentional but deadly. I still can't show squirrel, but there's Prismo's bemused look. I could see going on a Lewis and Clark kick and reading something on him. Like, I really feel like, since I'm working on this giant maximalist autobiography that's 60 chapters over 2 volumes and over 3,000 pages, every chapter has a different form, and the form is dictated by the content. Anyway, I kind of want to put like all of America into the book also, just because it's the world I know, filtered, you know, a big filter for it, the country. You know, on different levels, I want to put everything in there. I'll have a chapter in book 2 that kind of talks about humanity going back to the Big Bang. Because why not include that in a memoir and think about big pictures in every context I can think of, really. But so I feel like it's good to engage with big topics and stuff. Like when I was writing the chapter What We Found When We Walked Across America, which is a 500-page, 7-episode miniseries script, the longest chapter in the book. It's almost 1,000 scenes. When I wrote that, I read a lot about America, particularly about the different regions that we passed through, but America in general. And Lewis and Clark, I think, since I write a lot about the West, and that's a big theme, there's something I need to continue to think about and read about. And thoughts of all that should go into the work, I think. Girl, I feel like you've left the realm of cleaning and gone into, like, gynecology or something over here. This is just a lot. And why you sat right there and... Here's someone who wrote about Lewis and Clark quite a bit, Stephen Ambrose, including a famous book that we either already looked at or that's in this pile coming up. But I remember listening to the audiobook of this when I had a job delivering newspapers, driving around. It was an undergrad college job. But I got this from the library. I would just check out like any nonfiction topic that sounded interesting. Well, not just that. That's when I first discovered Gilgamesh. It's an audiobook of Stephen Mitchell's Gilgamesh, a new verse version. It's just kind of a synthesis of existing translations because he doesn't know the original language. Wow. I'm like, you can do that? But I had never realized how important the Transcontinental Railroad was to shaping the continent and modern life in the West. The West is a big topic that I think about a lot and that comes into my work a lot. And I think it's, you know, it's really the same as talking about colonization and empire. And the West has always been the edge of empire, you know. This blade that keeps going. It's still going. All this disaster capitalism stuff that's going on right now. Destroy the world so that you can profit from it later. Yeah, I live in the city with 1/3 of the nation's nuclear arsenal, as do all of my children. My daughter Anodyne will be going away on an exchange student thing for a year. She'll be safer probably where she's going. Maybe. I often think about this tweet that was like, I'd move away from America, but I'm afraid I'd be a victim of its foreign policy. But this is good stuff to know. It's not Albuquerque-centric at all, but it helped me to contextualize the railroad arriving in Albuquerque in the late 70s, 1870s. I discovered, doing research, that my great-grandfather, Hebert Manasseh Clough, had a team of oxen and plowed some of the original railroad in Albuquerque in like 1879. I think it was. But that blows my mind. There's some slight resemblance in photos I've seen of him. And I've been to his grave many times in Blue Water, New Mexico. Huh. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. We really take for granted today what the geography of where we live is. Those of us in America. But like every mountain ridge was once a major obstacle for everything. I guess it's all going some crazy sci-fi place. Someday this will be watched on a neural chip in someone's eye implant or something. Maybe. Most likely it'll be lost in the great solar flares of this and that time. Anyway, great topic. Wild to think of time. Wow, where is it all going? Like, what so many people think of as the Old West really was the end of the West. I mean, when the train came in, every scene with the train, that's the end of the West. Like, anything that was like, you know, that old mentality, something genuinely wild, despite there being existing civilizations there. There was also this like lawless frontier outsider thing going on. Deadwood was an interesting show. I think it kind of, full of great performances, but I got mad at the writers a lot. But I do think all the time of E.L. Doctorow's quote that we go to nonfiction to find out what happened and to fiction to find out how it felt. You know, and now there's great narrative nonfiction, I think, that kind of gives a little bit of that too. I think Stephen Ambrose is a good writer overall. He's kind of like old-timey in his mentalities, I think. I think he wrote a biography of Eisenhower, and he was like, what a great guy. I don't know. I guess everyone wants to be successful enough that they eventually have to make the choice whether or not to lick the boots of empire, you know? I don't think I would want, like, Sir on my name or something like that, you know? Seems gauche. And the people I admire more seem to have turned stuff down. Hey, speaking of Stephen Ambrose, this is about... Crazy Horse and Custer. Cool. Good topic. I think I listened to the audiobook of this too, and it was so interesting and heavy and wow. An epic retelling of one of our country's most tragic periods, Baltimore Sun. Full story of what led each man to that fateful day. Little Bighorn, that sounds stylistically cool. Good scope. Could maybe have a Stephen Ambrose section. Another beautiful plastic wrapped book. Ooh. The first full-scale report of the gathering Red Power movement, a revolt against the white man's culture and its debasement of the tribal way. 1968. The AIM movement was really interesting. I think did a lot of good. They're often a voice in these old news stories I look up. I used to live by this bar in Arizona named Witch Wells. It was the nearest point of civilization. I was in a 14-foot travel trailer beneath a windmill some miles away. And part of that bar's history was that it had been taken over by AIM because they had said it was a white person selling alcohol to an indigenous population. And he was like, but my wife's Navajo or Zuni, I can't remember. Or when the Broken Circle murders happened up in Farmington, and it turned out that these Native American men had been being murdered by teenagers, Mormon teenagers there in town. There's a book about that, The Broken Circle by Rodney Parker. Whoa, horrifying story. My kid's grandma their mom's mom went to high school with the killers. Anyway, and Farmington just basically totally like protected these young Mormon kids that were total sadistic psychos that had been taking all these men out to the desert and torturing and killing them. Evil. People had thought there was like some sort of, Jeffrey Dahmer serial killer type guy around. But it was a group of teenagers. Anyway, after Farmington bent over backward to protect these kids, AIM descended on Farmington. They're a big part of that book I just showed. I should read this. I want to know about every topic, and I live in the West and have indigenous friends, and it's cool to know about everyone who's here. Yeah, books can get outdated in their terminology, but so what? It's like a valuable document. Black Sunday. This was the worst storm of the Dust Bowl. The Great Dust Storm of April 14th, 1935. What's cool is I wrote an article on Black Sunday for New Mexico Magazine long ago. And so I got every book and mention of the topic I could find on Black Sunday, because I found that it had been much discussed in olden times, but that had really dropped off of the mention of modern accounts. That in the book The Worst Hard Time, he kind of brings it back and talks about it a bunch, but it might be in the stack here. But Woody Guthrie sings about this one. On the 14th day of April of 1935. Full Ballads is such a good album, and it's the original album and the original concept album. It's fantastic. Back when an album was literally an album of records that you could flip through like a book, like a family album. I've seen some of those original albums at a thrift store before. I wanted to buy them so bad. It's so cool to see that, anything like that, those old 78s in little pouches. So when I read this book, and I read a bunch of things on this topic, maybe I first heard about, did The Worst Hard Time get me into it? I can't remember. But I read so many books on the Dust Bowl. That was like a years-long obsession. And for what? No, just kidding. I know a bunch of stuff about the Dust Bowl now. I feel like I have a sense of it. And the whole thing is an environmental cautionary fable that actually happened. But this was a crazy storm. Chickens went up to roost because they thought it was dark. The sky was so black. A huge rolling sideways tornado basically rolled in. This massive dust storm. What's the Middle Eastern term? A haboob. And cows had their eyes scoured until they were blind by the swirling dust, and whole herds of cows were left blind. Animals found their way into barbed wire fences and died. Same thing happened to a little boy, the only casualty of the day. Car crashes. There was all kinds of stuff that happened, though. Of course, the long-term effects of the whole Dust Bowl, like dust pneumonia, a million health problems. It's not good to eat grit constantly. Squirrel, I feel like you're smelling the rug too much. That's a lot of smelling the rug. But it's kind of funny when I interviewed all these old timers about this storm. They were pretty old. This was in the late aughts, 2000 something. They would keep calling me back to tell me more. I'm like, these people really want to reminisce. If anyone ever finds that New Mexico Magazine article, pretty much everyone quoted in that I had so many conversations with. It was very interesting, and it made this day so vivid in my head. People really wanted to tell that story, and they remembered so many little details. People had end time fears. There were, let's just say it, ignorant, poor rednecks that thought it was like the end of the world, like Judgment Day. And I speak as the descendant of such ignorant folk. Well, that there cloud turned a different color, so that means the whole world's gonna end. Just quality scientific minds, But I guess we could allow that it speaks of it all seeming to be freaking serious, I guess I was in a tropical storm once where palm trees were snapping all around me on a little island in the Honduran Bay Islands, and I feel like we barely survived that. That was really a scary experience at times. Everything we had was waterlogged. And I got hit by trees and stuff. They just come down on the tent out of nowhere. How do you protect yourself against that? Even so, I think it would be like the end of my world. I don't know. It speaks of it being a different time, right? If any of the viewers of this channel are fans of the comedy Community, new seasons of it, not new seasons, but seasons that weren't previously posted of it, are now on Tubi. Seasons 3 and 4. 4 is the gas leak year without the original showrunner, but I think it still has its moments. And part of the show's charm is its ever-changing evolution. Anyway, the Dust Bowl. It's a crazy thing. Yep, steel-tipped plows ripped up all the prairie sod. Giant dust storms came about where all the topsoil was ripped up. The climate had revenge. Shame. The prairie's so beautiful too. Okay, this looks interesting. I feel like I glanced at this once or something. I don't know. Sometimes books get moved around. Well, you're very distracting with your cuteness. You too, Prisma. Agriculture is colonization in the West. Yeah. If I didn't quote this in this Arizona essay I wrote, I should have. But I did. I was on a block quoting spree in that essay. I wanted it to kind of have a collage element. Anyway, gotta love a good topic. Speaking of the show Community, you know, I love that show, but its activist character is such a caricature that I think you can be very well informed and be outraged about everything and want to make a difference, you know? I want to be successful as an artist so I can be more successful as an activist. Anyway, it's good to know stuff. How agriculture functioned as a colonizing force in the American West between 1862 and 1945. Nice. Using agricultural textbooks, USDA documents, and historical accounts of Western settlement, she explores the implications of the premise that civilization progresses by bringing agriculture to wilderness. Her analysis is the first to place the trans-Mississippi West in the broad context of European and classical Roman agricultural history. Subjugation, plows, livestock, trees, grasses. Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet this book is way too tragic and interesting. Yeah, that's the thing. No topic's really boring, you know. To some people, I bet this sounds very dry, but this is about like, here come Mormons and they rip up all the grasses that have the seeds that the Paiute people use as a wheat-like staple, and now the Paiute people go extinct within a generation. Not extinct, but, you know, it's really reduced. And there's probably so many stories like that. You know, Nietzsche said it's a curse it's exhausting to find everything profound. I would say it's also enlivening too. It makes the world have something going for it. I think if you really see the big picture, the one big picture, as represented here by Squirrel, here by Prisma, Dene, A History of the Navajos by Peter Iverson. Well, it's a great topic. All the people of the West are fantastic topics. Everybody is like, talk about a neglected history. I mean, there's so much pre-European history in North America. And anyway, I bet this book's very interesting. I've read from it, and I think it is interesting. I like what I've read. Partially illustrated. I suppose various cultures and ethnicities and places in the world and the people of those places have their like specific cultural attitudes and traits and so on. But all the Navajo people I've ever known are awesome. And they've always been like excellent humor. Anytime I'm hanging out with anyone who's Navajo, I feel like I'm laughing half the time. But everyone's cool, you know. Yeah, you can't study a place without knowing its people, studying its people, you know. I mean, I don't know, learning everything about everything. It's all connected. You know? I also have books about my people. Oh, this book is pretty interesting. And this character is pretty interesting. It may have ultimately had a negative effect on the world a little bit through his influence on LA. Charles Fletcher Lummis. This guy who back in the 1800s was just like, it'd be cool to walk across America. And he did. This is a famous walking story that should be told in film. It's way interesting. I know about him. I found out about him through a very indirect way and got this book because of it. Since figured into many other books and things I've read, he was actually like a really significant figure of a time and very different. Curious, he was a booster. The Curious Life of Charles Fletcher Lummis. And the rediscovery of the Southwest. He walked across it. But I found out about him because I printed out the whole run of this old-timey newspaper in an area I study near from Golden, New Mexico. And it was called The Golden Retort. And it was just this one guy with a printing press who wrote this in a mining camp. And on slow news days, it would be like, squirrels are real active in camp today. Or wind blew over that one roof. I think my favorite thing I ever read in that newspaper was a prank where a young man brought a brown paper bag full of oranges to give to his date that he was going on a buggy ride with around Golden, New Mexico back in the day, this little mining town. And somebody, as a prank, switched the bag with dirty potatoes. And he said, would you like a beautiful orange that I have procured, miss? And then he offered her a grubby, warty potato instead. And it said in the piece, the young lady has still not stopped laughing. Anyway, one day, this guy, Charles Fletcher Lummis, on his walk across the country, walked through Golden, New Mexico, and he became good buddies with the owner of the Retort. And maybe that guy put into Lummis's head to become a newspaper person, because when he got to LA, he founded the LA Times. And he kind of wielded it in a boostery, not always cool way. If you read City of Quartz by Mike Davis, Lummis appears as a nonfiction character in here. And he's, a bit villainous in how he shapes the city. People can be real exclusive, racist, eugenicist, all the above. Some used homeowners associations, some used newspapers. But I read all of that Golden Retort run. I printed it all out back in the early 2000s when people were printing stuff left and right. America be printing, that was the motto. I like the similarity of these two covers. I was hiking in canyons like these last summer. Can't believe I didn't do that job again. It conflicted with the job I've been working, but now that one's coming to an end, and I'm like, why didn't I do Cottonwood Gold? It would have been so much better. I mean, just because it's awesome. Being the trees is great. But it doesn't pay up front, I don't think. Maybe it pays month by month, but it doesn't start right away. It's weird, they got their own system. I want the money now. But anyway, to have a whole book about Charles Fletcher Lummis is cool. I mean, this is from University Press, I think. So he's still like kind of an obscure topic and figure, but yeah, there would be a great, see like a Paul Thomas Anderson based on this movie, based on this guy. Something that really captures a time and this kind of figure. Anytime you walk across something, a country, a big stretch, whatever, I feel like it becomes like a Gnostic play or something. It becomes like about your own life, symbolic or something. So why he walked across the country and then went on to be kind of a problematic newspaper owner, I don't know. 1889. I'm going to remove this to the booklets section. That's kind of a new idea I've been working on. Booklets. Scenes of the Plateau Lands and How They Came to Be. This is such a great book. This is not the only geology book that I've had, but it is a book that I think that I love. I think there's another one too. It's called Geology of the something. No, this is a special one. I've read this more than once. If you need to understand the landscape of things, read Gary Snyder's poem, What You Should Know to Be a Poet. You need to know the extremes of life a little bit. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom, as William Blake said. You gotta know the names of plants, to quote Gary Snyder. You've gotta know things. You're gonna write about the world, have the broadest, best vocabulary you can. biggest knowledge base. Like, it's so annoying to read books that are set in a geologically beautiful area that are described by imbeciles. I mean, you don't have to be an expert geologist, but when you do have an expert geologist there, it's better. One of the people I worked with last summer was a geologist, Clara, and she would just go off about the rock inclines and synclines, and I'm like, this is so great. I have people around me that are nerdier than I am with different fact sets. And it was great to hear. And it is a big epic story, you know? But this is going in the booklet section, which is the only shelf that's a drawer. Collection fun fact. I mean, what is this channel even? Understanding literature through one person's book collection. Or like understanding the world of books through looking at one person's book collection. And really, it's just an excuse to get these kitties some global airtime. The world needs to see these cats. Yes, kitty too. I guess today was the day for that my daughter Willow was giving the baby kitten over to the new people owning it. Get the impression from some texts I received she may have like barricaded herself in the bathroom and refused to give up such cuteness. But you know, that's standard kids movie stuff, and growing up, if you haven't barricaded yourself to save an animal at least once, I mean, that's like Free Willy, you know. Not that I have a bird's nest. Like, this video is already 31 minutes long. Maybe you should stop. There's so much more. Aren't you hungry? Do you want to check your text or something? I suppose. Okay, we looked at those. Next we'll look at these. Some time ago, we looked at those. This has been Southwestern Books. Well, is anyone out there? Is anyone watching these videos? I don't know. Maybe? Those of you that are, hello. Thank you for watching. Even if you're watching in the future, you know? Like, that's cool. Whenever. Hopefully you're not watching because people are all watching clips of Albuquerque before it was destroyed in some nuclear war thing. Do we have a lot of the nation's nuclear arsenal here? Maybe. I think I will now choose to believe that they moved it. It's not here anymore. And no, I don't live in the same quadrant of the city as where it's all stored. And no, I'm not still traumatized by seeing The Day After as a kid, or as I like to call it, The Day After Joyce Hampton. Alright. I guess you live in an area long enough, you acquire books about it. I think in fact, I know this is one of the sections that I got rid of the most of during the Purge. I had a collection of 11,000 books. I now have less than half of that. I think it's like 4,000. But one of the shelves that really got pared down was this big Southwestern case I had in my room. I didn't keep that case because it was water stained. I actually like nice things. I'm a snob. But my idea of nice things is a nice bookcase with nice books in it. And nice, I just mean squirrel approved. Squirrel allows me to read it with her psychic powers. And she doesn't prevent me. I deem it worthy. Anyway. I need some cashola fast. I gotta figure that out. Well, there's always begging on the internet. Only if it could be done obliquely, like if I could just casually mention that in the description for this channel there is a PayPal handle. Remind you that you gotta kill at least one snake every day, but not literally. Ben Stiller is a good bus driver. I guess I should put more shorts up of the cats reviewing books because those seem to bring people to the channel. But I feel like I'm not seeing any sort of comments. I wonder if they've like put my whole channel in some fake corner of the internet because I said some word I wasn't supposed to say, and now bots are just convincing me to stick around and keep doing it. I've heard of such shenanigans being done. Yeah, that's another video. What's that, squirrel? It's at Michael Farrell Smith on PayPal. MichaelFarrell SMITH. But thanks for asking anyway. That's nice. What's up, Priz? This cat is a general in the army of righteousness. It's true. Okay, you don't want. Okay. What's a primpa? It's crazy. There, I have videos on this channel of talking about every book in this part of this room. Whole categories that now seem lost to the distant past. Like, does anybody ever... Why wouldn't new people comment on sci-fi books? Like, wouldn't people still be looking, like, the same topics up? I felt like when I first newly put stuff up, it was found by people that were just searching those topics. Like, I put up H.G. Wells videos and people were just suddenly finding them. Then why never again? Why do those numbers never advance again? I'm having a very fishy YouTube experience, TBH. Like, why do people not comment? There must be people out there. Okay, whatever. I mean, somebody sent me some money once. I mean, that was way cool. And, I don't know. I mean, I suppose I've mentioned, like, words that I hear can get people demonetized or whatever, but I'm not even monetized. It's just like, maybe they just cut you out of the algorithm or whatever. When you're looking at nonfiction books sometimes, you know, or fiction, or Squirrel happens to think she's not clean enough and is nearby you, you know, disturbing topics might get mentioned. Anyway, y'all are great. If you're out there, if you're real, I think you are. There must be a few of you, and if it's just a few, that's cool. Again, you know, part of the funniness of this channel, I think, too, is going to be just, like, keeping away at it, and sometimes someone will discover it here and there, and there'll be, like, 1,000 videos already. They'll be like, what? We're coming up on 300 videos on this channel. I know, like, not quite 40 of them are shorts that are just the cats. But still, maybe I'll do a meta one where it's like, let's look at the 10 most popular videos on the channel. Look at these later. The most attentive of you will be awarded the Cross and Crown Certificate of Attendance. And this tiny golden beast of ancient wisdom, as it was called. Alright, everybody. Life, you know. Life. Take care. Hope y'all are well.